In 1994, a movie came along about a man of low intelligence who happens to hit a few lucky breaks, weaving himself in and out of the timeline of American history and into the hearts of millions of moviegoers. That man was Forrest Gump. For the month of February, I'll be focusing episode topics on historical and pop culture references in the movie, ones you may have missed when watching the film because of the overwhelming emotion attached to every scene, or ones you may only be familiar with on the surface. In this episode, we'll be talking about the song that seemed to be inspired when Forrest Gump and John Lennon appeared on the Dick Cavett Show. It was as if you could see the gears turning in Lennon's head as Forrest explained to him what China was like, and the beginnings of Lennon's most successful single from his solo career. I am your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind Imagine. But first, a quick message. Do you have any superstitions you believe in? Come on, it doesn't have to be as obvious as not walking under a ladder or not stepping on a crack. It could be as harmless as growing a playoff beard or being a little more cautious on Friday the 13th. I'll be working on an upcoming series for March, and I'd love to hear your stories. Record a clip letting me know your superstitions, and if you're a podcaster, be sure to include the name of your show. You can email them to thestorybehindpod@gmail.com. And also forward this podcast to 10 of your friends, or bad luck will befall you. Just kidding. Or am I?
Forrest Gump, John Lennon.
Welcome home.
You had quite a trip. Can you tell us what was China like?
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion, too?
Oh. Hard to imagine.
Well, it's easy if you try, Dick.
If you follow The Story Behind on Instagram, @StoryBehindPod, you may have seen that I took a trip to visit the Magical Mystery Tour, a Beatles exhibition filled with memorabilia, personal items, photographs, and even a recreation of the Cavern Club, the small nightclub in Liverpool the Beatles frequently played in during the beginning of their careers. Having this series in mind when I went, I was inspired to find out the story behind John Lennon's iconic song and its impact through today. On an early morning in 1971, John Lennon sat down at his white grand piano, his wife Yoko Ono watching him, as he started playing a chord progression and came up with the lyrics seemingly on the spot. The lyrics, he admitted later, were inspired by poems in his wife's 1964 book, Grapefruit, in which she wrote the line, "Imagine letting goldfish swim across the sky." Lennon admitted later in an interview he should have credited the song to Lennon Ono, as he would have with any male collaborator, but at the time, he wasn't man enough to realize his backwards thinking. But the poem with that line was put on the Imagine album back cover. He said he was also inspired by a prayer book given to him by Dick Gregory about the positive prayer and the power of imagination. In his home studio, he recorded it with the help of Klaus Bormann, Nicky Hopkins, and Alan White, who was the artist who drew the Beatles' Revolver album cover. And it was produced by Phil Spector, who insisted the track remain simple. Ono has since said Lennon never thought the song would become an anthem. It was what John believed. We were all one country, one world, and one people. And he wanted to get that idea out. John himself even said that the song about lack of government or religion was, quote, virtually the Communist Manifesto. But regardless of that, Lennon admitted in a later interview that Imagine was as good as anything he had written with the Beatles. Even Paul McCartney, whose relationship with Lennon was rocky at the time, admitted he knew the song was, quote, killer the first time he heard it. For a song so associated with peace, Imagine comes with its fair share of controversy. One line in particular has been a main issue. And no religion, too. When seniors at Denmark High School in Green Bay, Wisconsin, voted for the song as their class song in 1972, the principal refused, stating the song was anti-religious and anti-American with communist overtones. The students, however, made the song the theme of their 20th reunion. In 2006, at a school in Devon, England, a headmaster canceled the children's choir performance when a teacher brought up concerns of the kids singing the song. Headmaster Jeff Williams said the lyrics, "Imagine there's no heaven and no religion too," wasn't appropriate for its students to be singing. John Lennon was asked by the World Church to use the song, but they wanted to change the lyrics to "and one religion too," which Lennon refused, saying that it would defeat the purpose of the song. After his death in 1980, his widow Yoko Ono had been approached by numerous groups wanting to change the lyric, to which she refused. But when CeeLo Green took it upon himself to change it while performing on New Year's Eve in 2011 to "and all religions true," people didn't take too kindly to it. Some tweets bashing the performance also criticized him for wearing fur and jewelry while singing a song about having no possessions. But then again, Lennon had also been criticized for the line, "Imagine no possessions," including by Elvis Costello, who was a fan of Lennon's. But he still sang the lyrics, "Was it a millionaire who said imagine no possessions," in his song, "The Other Side of Summer." The song, which lends itself to being covered after times of tragedy and vigils and benefit concerts, was banned by Clear Channel Radio in 2001, following the September 11th attacks. It was one of 150 songs banned on radio stations owned by Clear Channel. The list also included Cat Stevens' "Peace Train," Black Sabbath's "War Pigs," Queen's "Another One Bites the Dust," and Judas Priest's "Some Heads Are Gonna Roll," not to mention anything by Rage Against the Machine. The song has been listed as one of the 100 most performed songs of the 20th century, according to BMI, earned a Grammy Hall of Fame award, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, among many other accolades. Jimmy Carter once remarked that in the 125 countries he and his wife had visited, Imagine was used as equally as the national anthems. U2's Bono had said it was the reason for his career, and longtime Beatles producer George Martin has said the album Imagine is one he wishes most he produced. At least 2 places in the world celebrate the song and its message, one being the airport in Liverpool, which was named Liverpool John Lennon Airport in 2002, and has the lyrics "Above Us Only Sky" painted on the roof, and the second being a section of Central Park in New York City called Strawberry Fields, in which a mosaic spells out the word Imagine. Many visit Strawberry Fields and the mosaic on October 9th every year, John Lennon's birthday. Lennon had a thing for the number 9, by the way. It seemed to follow him from the day of his birth in 1940 to Brian Epstein discovering the Beatles on November 9th, 1961, to the Beatles performing on The Ed Sullivan Show for the first time on February 9th, 1964, to meeting his second wife Yoko on October 9th in 1966, to the birth of his son Sean on October 9th, again in 1975. Some even associate the day of his death with October 9th, and while it was December 9th in Liverpool when he died, it was only December 8th in New York City when John Lennon was gunned down outside of his apartment building. Information for this episode was sourced from biography.com, rollingstone.com, Rebeat Magazine, and the documentary Give Me Some Truth, The Making of John Lennon's Imagine album, and more links which can be found in the show notes at thestorybehindpodcast.com. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StoryBehindPod, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.